Hey there, and welcome to The Lab, the series where we tap into the minds and strategies of top-performing EXP agents to uncover what's really working out there today. What you're about to see isn't just a great conversation, it's a sneak peek of what's inside EXP University training. All of our major training programs like Fast Cap, the Lead Generation Series, Fast Attract, and more are built by conducting dozens and dozens of these interviews. Think cutting-edge tactics, proven systems, and agent-tested strategies compiled from multiple agents on a given topic, all building into insights shared in our training and right here. Consider this your front row seat, and let's dive in.
Thanks for doing this. We really appreciate you coming on. David Childers, Keeping Current Matters. For folks not familiar with you, would you mind sharing just a little bit about your background and what you do today to help the real estate industry?
Sure. Yeah. So Keeping Current Matters, we call it KCM as well, and what we do. Yeah, we started, right is kind of the 2008 crisis was happening in real estate, the mortgage crisis, financial crisis, with this desire to help agents answer questions that were hard to answer. Right. If anybody that was in the business back then remembers that time and remembers, everything, I often say, it kind of as 06 and 07 started to happen. It was like, all right, we're going to be out of this in 12 months. And then 08 rolls around. And it's like, maybe not. And 09 rolls around. Like maybe we're all going to, end up doing something else, whatever, that sort of transition was. But it was this sort of driving force that if you were the informed agent and you had answers to what was happening economically and, with inventory and with prices, you could then change the way that buyers sort of understand things. And back then it was short sales and everything that was happening in the business, that you didn't go, well, I don't know what to do. You could say, here's exactly what you can do. And so, back then when KCM was started, it was with the intent of helping agents be more professional in the content they produce and the responses they provide and the conversations that they start. Because I always joke around and say, we work in a business where everybody has an opinion about real estate. But very few of those opinions are based upon facts. They're based upon what maybe you thought you heard, or I wouldn't buy a house right now, or whatever that is. It's not based upon some sort of fact. And so, what I always kind of think of in what we do is helping agents have a relevant market opinion based upon the facts. Because if you base your opinions and your advice upon facts, then you don't have to convince anybody to do anything. They can make the best decision for they and their family. So what do? We do that through the content we provide, the thought leadership that we bring to the industry, and everything to give agents to something I would add to that is confidence to have those facts about what exactly is happening in the market.
Yeah, and that's a big piece of it. And when I talk to agents, I've literally done trainings where I've asked agents to pick up their phone and call their sphere of influence, and I've literally had agents cry.
Yeah,
literally cry at the idea of calling. Said to them, "Why are you crying?" Well, I don't want to call them because I don't want to annoy them. And I said, no, I don't want you to do that either. Put down the phone until you can figure out how not to annoy them and bring real value to that relationship. And with 1.5 million and shrinking, but 1.5 million realtors in this industry, you got to stand out. Everybody's got a cousin or a friend who's a realtor. The question is, can you convince them that you are so much better than that individual? They'll risk offending somebody at the Thanksgiving table,
right.
By using you instead. So I'm curious, when you look at the things that you guys produce, can you talk us through some typical content ideas that you guys have created and how real estate agents engage with those?
Yeah, sure. So I think if I even kind of go back and tell the story of KCM, like we talked about, we have this core belief. Even if you were here, Brian, with me, I'm in our office in Richmond, Virginia. We were just talking about that. We have a wall that says we believe every family should feel confident whether buying or selling a home. So it starts, the content and the ideas that we produce start with that as a driver. We want people to feel confident about the decision they're making. Is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to sell? Should we do it? All of those things. And that sort of is the catalyst where things split out from. Now, here's the interesting thing. The KCM blog was started in 2011. And if you remember back then, people were starting blogs the same way people are starting podcasts today. Why do you start a podcast today? Because people are starting podcasts. That's the reason most people start a podcast, right?
Well, we're supposed to do that.
Totally. It was a blog, right? Like, why are we starting a blog? Because everybody's starting a blog. That's the reason. But the interesting thing is the blog was written to the consumer and still is today. I call the KCM blog the most widely read blog in real estate, just because if you knew if you could share one that was more widely shared, I certainly would listen. I just don't know of one that is that, but it gives consumers sort of the ideas that are happening in the market. Like, let's talk about, this market right now. And I know this will live on beyond today, but we're in a time where inventory is rising across the country. So we want to break that down and we want to say, okay, what does that mean? If you're thinking about selling a home, what does it mean that inventory is rising? If you're thinking about buying a home, what does that mean? Because here's the key piece. It helps then create a level of expectation with anyone you're working with. So, if you have a piece of content and you send it out to someone, it should in some way educate or inform them more than just, it's time to clean out your gutters. It should be something that somebody goes, that's interesting. Whether I'm personally transacting or thinking about buying or selling a home right now, it helps somebody go, that's interesting, or somebody could use this, or I'm better educated now because I'm in relationship with whoever this is, and I'm learning about what's happening in the real estate business. And so concepts that we work in are ones that we believe, one, will educate the consumer. Two, is an area that is sort of twisted at times. And I can give you several different examples of that the media may use that we can bring clarity to, right? Not anything that is necessarily, I do believe there's some right and wrong in it, and I'll get into that, but things that we can be the expert. Right. I think in any market, and certainly the aim of this world has been sort of in the US of like, I don't know if you need an agent, right? The sort of, hey, let's change the game and all the, political and legal wrangling that's gone along with that. We need to be the experts. So let me give you an example.
Please.
We created, there's largely, I could go a million different directions in this, but there's this idea in this country that Wall Street is buying up a ton of homes and they're the reason you can't buy a home. Mm-hmm. And that idea sort of is rooted in a lot of, honestly, American politics. And I'm not here to be political in any stretch of the imagination, because I think both sides of the aisle do it, is they take a point of, maybe understanding or misunderstanding, like Wall Street's buying all the homes, and they go to the American voter and they say, that's why you can't afford a home. That's why you can't buy a home. And we're going to fix it. Vote for us. That's how that process goes, right? Well, if you start with a faulty premise, which is Wall Street's buying up all the homes, we know institutional investors make up less than 1% of transactions in this industry. And then you formulate sort of case based upon that, then that's the recipe for misinformation in real estate and honestly in everywhere that we live and operate in this world. And so we want to give agents the perspective to almost kind of say, hey, you don't have to tell your customer this, but I have KCM in my back pocket here, right? I spent hours researching this, and let me share with you what the truth is. Not my opinion, not what I came up with, but I'm going to share information from the census or from another reputable source that says, oh, by the way, here's how many homes institutional investors or Wall Street is buying. That's not really the reason. The real reason is builders didn't build as many homes post 2008. We haven't kept up with population growth. And so we have fewer homes on the market. Most would say somewhere around 2 or 3 million homes undersupplied in this country. That's really the real reason that you can't buy a home. So let's talk about that and what that means right here where we're at. You're in Austin, Texas, like right here, what's going on in Austin, Texas, so that we can help you make the best decision when you're ready to buy, when you're ready to sell, or just so that you're a more informed consumer.
Engagement in any topics more so than others recently that the agents should be paying attention to?
For sure. Yeah. And I want to respond to what you just said. I don't like the way I look and sound a lot of times too. I don't go back and look at it. My kids make a fair amount of fun of me on that. You know what I mean?
I got 4. I know exactly what you mean.
Maybe they'll see this one and have a good time, but I think everybody struggles with that. And the only way, all of us didn't get in this business to start recording videos, right? We're like, oh, you know what? Guess what? I'm going to get in real estate because I really want to record some videos, right? And some people have a natural gravitation towards it, and we know who they are, and we see them all the time. We're like, oh my gosh, they're great. But I will say this. My experience in my own journey of video and real estate, the only way you get better is by doing it. That's the only way I know. If somebody's like, no, we'll sell you a course and you can get better, do this, I'll listen. But the only way I know is by doing it.
That's right.
And if you're not in a situation right now where you're like, I feel confident, recording video, you got to do it. And you should hope that when you go back to look at that video a year later, that you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much I've improved, because I guarantee you will improve. But the sort of genesis of the Real Talk product was agents saying, I know I need to be on video, but I don't know what to say. I don't know what I'm going to do. I could record something over here. I could do an open house. We know those easy things. But if I was coming to bring my relevant market opinion about a topic, how would I even do that? And so there are a couple things that are important about what we do about that. One, we give you the words and the scripts that you can, make your own and all of those things, and then, have it on a teleprompter. And it does take, a little bit of work to use a teleprompter. I'll use one from time to time, but I'll take the script out and I'll highlight it and I'll go, okay, this is where I want to make emphasis. And I put, a few minutes, not a lot, maybe 15 minutes of review and prep, and then boom, I can go and record it. But here's the other thing that's tremendously important about what we do. And I would say you don't have to use us to do this, but I would recommend you always do this, is we give you the source of that information. Because the number one reason people don't record a video or post a piece of content is they're afraid the question they're going to get. Where did you get this from? And how do you know that's true? Or whatever it is. You can then send them the source report from it. And I always joke around. I'm like, that person's not going to read it. They just wanted to ask the question, right? But you'll feel much more confident about, hey, I do know what I'm talking about. And I do know what's important in our market. Now, I will, 2 things. You ask what gets attention maybe, or what gets interaction. I'll answer that question. But I do want to say too, the thing that wins in this market and in any market right now is not one video. It's consistency.
That's right.
In the space. It's being consistent. And I know in my life, right, consistency is hard, right? I can guarantee you, Brian, I can go pay for a gym membership here. That doesn't mean I'm going to go, right? Being consistent is probably the number one thing that most of us struggle with on some level, different areas, whether it be physically or, different areas of life. We struggle with consistency. And I think it's hugely important. But I will guarantee you, most times, if you post a piece of content, whether it's video, whatever it is, about mortgage rates, you'll get some interaction. prices of homes, oh, everybody's interested in that, right?
Yeah.
So those types of things will bring people in. I always say too, look at who you respect in the business. You follow KCM, follow Keeping Current Matters, and look at what's getting traction. I saw an agent post something, it's been the last few weeks, where they were doing a video that was a market update, and they just had a like a board, and they were writing some things down about like, hey, here's what's to come in our market. Just a few kind of simple facts. It was really, neat idea. But just look at those things and go, oh, I could copy that, right? Swipe and adapt in some of these concepts.
Yeah, I mean, Picasso said it, good artists borrow, great artists steal. You should constantly be looking, and you're right, consistency is the key. I know agents who post just, in fact, I was talking to one earlier, all she does is post videos of her doing home tours, but she does one every single day. And as a result, has tens of thousands of followers and has hundreds, if not thousands of leads each month from those videos. And it's not necessarily that people are buying that particular home, but they see her as an expert. They see her consistently out there producing content. And so it solidifies in their mind that she is the real estate agent to work with in that market because she knows so much about it.
And yeah, I mean, agents that are doing it, we all know, even people watching this know who they are. And I think there are a couple of things from that. One, a lot of those agents are seeing traction from social. Like they're, people are coming in and going, hey, we saw you, and, almost like creating rapport or creating a reputation before we even sit down and talk, right? So that's one advantage. The second advantage is, and this is a hard question to answer, is if you were to go look at your social media feed, like an Instagram feed or whatever it is, would you consider yourself the expert? Would you consider yourself the expert? And if not, you have to look at that and go, okay, I probably need to do something in a different way. And there's so many things that are working now beyond even just market update content, which is what we specialize in, but sort of, hey, this is what I'm working on. We know the listing stuff. We know the different categories. And so I think that there's a tremendous opportunity to make a difference. We help you and sort of support in the market element of it, which I think is critically important of talking about. This is what we see happening right now in real estate.
When you think about the use of your content, obviously creating videos either to send or to post online is one area. How else do you recommend agents engage with that content in terms of getting it into the hands of the end consumer?
Say that one more time. You kind of broke up there in the middle of that.
Sorry. We talked about using your content to create great videos, posting on social, of that nature. Are there other ways that you recommend agents take your content or your products and use those in terms of their outreach to either sphere or new people?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we just released a new product called KCM Playbooks. And so what a playbook is, and this gets to sort of the core of what the use case is with information like this. Because if you know everything happening in the market and you are the expert, but you aren't engaging people on it, that's where the challenge or the difference is actually made. So what we will do is we will give agents through playbooks the emails to send out. So imagine, one of the most shocking things in this country in real estate, and I could give you several very, very interesting statistics on this, but is the amount of equity that people have in their homes today. It's unreal, more than ever before. And so you take a concept like equity and the average home in this country has over $300,000 in equity. We know how many are paid off and how many, all these, sort of mind-blowing statistics. When you tell somebody, like, they're not in the business, they're like, really? That's unreal. That's unreal. And so how do you take a concept like equity and say, hey, Brian, did you know that, over 35% of the homes in this country are owned free and clear. The other significant portion have at least 50% equity. Do you ever wonder what your home is worth and how much equity you have in that? Do what we would call like a professional equity assessment report. Like, all right, everybody's interested in that, in the equity position. Or take a concept like, for sellers, I'll tell you a very interesting statistic. We sit here in the first week of June of 2025, expired listings are rising. They're up 17% year to date. Okay, what does that now mean? How do I engage people that may have a listing that's expiring? Or so depending on the segment of your database, we can give you the facts and the text messages, the direct messages to engage on that based on these concepts and these sort of fact-based perspectives that I see right now, agents using those to create momentum in their business, right? The agents that are winning today are the ones that are sitting there making it happen, every day.
Well, and it's also instructive in terms of how you should go about generating your leads. So like if you were thinking about getting into expired but weren't quite sure, now would be a good time to learn expired scripts and start making those calls legally, do it the right way.
Sure.
So in terms of outreach and communication to my sphere, any other advice that you have for me as an agent about what I should be doing, how I should be positioning myself, utilizing something like KCM?
Yeah, I think it's sort of the full rounded picture. We talked about videos, we talked about social, we talked about, hey, what am I doing out in the market? My consultation, a buyer consultation or a listing presentation. I think being able to intertwine everything that you do with this opinion of this is what's happening. Now I call it a relevant market opinion. Here's why this is. We could take a concept, like I'll give you a for instance on this. So you take an idea like debt in this country. Okay, debt is a problem. And you start to hear things from people, or even as you talk about things with somebody thinking about buying a home. There are a lot of people right now that would say, hey, things are sort of uncertain economically. I'm not sure I want to buy. And that is true. Things are uncertain. There are a lot of questions in the economy. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you've seen this recently. Consumer debt's at the highest level it's been ever in this country. $18 trillion. I don't know if you knew that, not like a pop quiz or anything. $18 trillion in consumer debt. Guess what makes up the biggest portion of that 18 trillion? Any wild guess? Huh?
Mortgage.
We do, right? Yeah. Congratulations. So that's the answer. So consumer debt's higher than it's ever been before. We're the largest contributor to that. Oh, by the way, there's talk of the economy slowing down and potentially a recession. I don't know if it's coming or not. Certainly not saying that. There's political uncertainty. Oh, by the way, let's go ahead and buy a house. Right? People are like, I'm good. Right? We'll wait, And so I think it's having those facts in every interaction. So if I have that perspective, it's what I'm posting socially. It's what maybe I'm making a video on. It's how I'm intertwining that in a buyer or seller, consultation. It's just in what I'm doing. It's the emails that I'm loading in or using in campaigns and in my strategy of how I'm engaging people and consistently talking about those things. So I think for me, obviously this is what we do every day at KCM. I'm like, it should, sort of intertwine and inject into everything that you're doing. Now I realize some people are going to go, well, David, I'm not going to do that everywhere I go, but there are agents that are doing that, but you have to figure out where's the right place for me to have this sort of perspective with the clients that I serve. Because I'll guarantee you this, everybody's interested in it. Kind of where we were starting, right? Everybody has an opinion about real estate. Everybody has an opinion. I'll give you another very interesting statistic. So I was telling you that consumer debt's higher than it's ever been before. 13 trillion in this country in mortgage debt. That's higher than it's ever been before. What is not told about that is value in homes is higher than it's ever been before. So if you look at this graphically, back in 2008, there was more debt on homes than there was value, right? We literally owed more homes than there was equity. We owed more than we had equity in homes. If you look at that graph today, value is skyrocketed. We know that, right? Most people that are in the business know that. Equity is skyrocketed, and the mortgage debt has kind of slowly climbed. And so I could make the case right now that probably financially and economically speaking, we live in, below the surface, the strongest real estate market of our lifetime.
Yeah.
When you start to look at the facts. My question in that is, okay, are you talking about that? Because let me give you the bad news. The media is not, right? They're going, hey, watch out here. This thing could go over a cliff. And oh, by the way, Austin, Texas, there's values dropping there. There are markets right now that the price is coming down. That is true. Another fact I'll give you, the average home in this country in the last 5 years has gone up 57%.
Wow.
Well, if it goes down 10%, you're going to be okay.
Yeah. It's buy right.
So it's understanding these dynamics, and because the question you ask is a really good question. If you have those at your command, you can answer these questions.
David, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it. How can folks reach out and learn more?
Sure. They can go to trykcm.com. TRYKCM stands for Keeping Current Matters. .com, and you can start a free trial and check it out and see if it's right for you. And I will say this: if you need a source, and oh, by the way, I believe everybody in our business does. You don't have to come to KCM for it, but you need a source of the facts and the truth in this market. That's what we operate. It's what we do every day. So if it's right for you, go check it out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I hope they do. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.